Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Most important product ever. That's a bold statement. We've had some pretty spectacular inventions in the past that have changed the world we know. Some of my favourite, just off the top of my head, might be the printing press, plough, steam engine, light bulb, DC and AC current, radio, internal combustion, the computer, and internet. All these inventions reshaped the world as we know it, and I think I'm now prepared to place this invention up there with some of those, as in how it will also reshape our world as we know it. With current battery technology, the only current battery that is remotely close to achieving what we want, as in transitioning to renewable energy, are iron ore based cathode batteries. I didn't actually say LFP, as lithium ion can also be substituted for the likes of sodium, and sodium being more abundant than lithium may end up being more suitable due to the sheer quantity of batteries we need. Why? Because there are not any other elements abundant enough for suitable cathodes for batteries. In fact, from first principles thinking for batteries, it's not about trying to work out what batteries have the most range or energy density or are the lowest cost. No, this is not your typical business. This is an entirely different paradigm. This isn't a product that needs to be the best for the consumer. This is a product that needs to be produced in the highest quantity for the consumer. There is no shortage of demand, just supply. Tesla have created products that reduce costs significantly. And when I say costs, I don't mean the price of a car or energy, I mean the cost of everything, which means every single battery that Tesla can get their hands on is earmarked for a highly profitable product. Therefore, as we need so many batteries, then the first principles way to view of what would be the ideal battery is going to be to look at what elements on the Earth are even abundant enough to make this many batteries in the first place. It's from here the ideal battery will be decided. Elements like iron are incredibly abundant. Nickel is too, but there might be about 50 times as much iron. That's a big difference. Of course, other elements like cobalt aren't going to come close to the level we need for this scale, which is actually one major feat that people underlook about Tesla's 4680 batteries. They are cobalt free. No cobalt required. As we know, a lot of cobalt is supplied from the Congo, which is not particularly economically stable and have unethical practices that do not align with Tesla. Believe it or not though, all the new battery factories that the legacy orders are building, well, they are producing nickel batteries and they all still require cobalt. It really is a huge advantage being able to make cobalt-free batteries, especially when no one else can, at least with nickel cathodes. I know there was so much amazing stuff to take away from Battery Day, it's easy to not give all the credit that is due. Again, just another reason why this 4680 launch will be such an achievement. Cobalt is going to be a huge bottleneck for all other nickel battery producers. But as for the abundant elements available on the planet, then LFP seems to tick most of the boxes for the miracle battery to transition us to renewable energy. Therefore, it seems inevitable that Tesla will make their own in-house LFP battery. And this has been a lot of the talk lately. LFP has been growing massively in popularity and scaling production. However, we need a battery that can be in production at such a rapid rate that it may actually look possible to transition to renewable energy. Production speed is the other major factor, in addition to there being enough abundant resources. It's no good if it will take a century to produce enough batteries for us to transition. Depending on what your beliefs are regarding climate change, then we may not have that long. But it's not just about climate change. It makes the world cleaner and it makes everything lower cost. It decentralizes wealth and a ton of other major economic impacts it has on our global standard of living. But we need to produce these batteries fast. Of course, we need to generate energy as fast as possible too, and need some serious solar mass production to accompany this. But what about cost, you may be thinking? And sure, that plays a role, but if there aren't enough elements in the first place, and we can't put them all together quick enough, then it's all moot. But as for cost, then if we are looking at abundant elements, then they will always be the lowest cost anyway. It will simply be a matter of opening up more mines, which sure will take years, but years, not centuries. So what about a Tesla LFP battery? What would we expect there? If we're able to hit ranges around 300 miles for LFP, then that is ample, especially when in just a few years there'll probably be 5 times as many chargers around, maybe more, and then maybe 100 times more by the end of the decade. Range is not really that big a deal, at least not long term. 250 miles is probably ample, even for the US. Remember, the range is only required for when you do long distance driving. The rest of the time you could just use destination chargers when you go shopping or at work, and of course charge at the convenience of your own home. Tesla have to make their own batteries because no one else can come close to this required production speed we're talking about. At least no one else has shown any signs ever that they are even working on such major advances, of which I'm referring to the dry battery electrode process. Instead, they need to build huge factories 10 times the size of Tesla for the same output. Tesla also use tabless batteries, so the production lines don't have to stop and start, and instead run continuous. Elon says about 80% of batteries will be LFP. Tesla is a highly vertically integrated company, and it would therefore only make sense that Tesla develop the component that is in 80% of their batteries. No one else will be able to make them as fast, as energy efficient, and as lower cost as Tesla. However, we have Tesla's battery day advances, of which a lot can be applied to LFP, which will add to more applications for LFP vehicles with extended range. I still hear a lot of people say to me that Tesla will make LFP in the 4680 form, something that I was also looking forward to, and even talking about last year. It was somewhat implied on battery day that the 4680 will have a diversified cathode approach. There'd be nickel and manganese, and then iron. Wow, great, 3 different versions of the 4680 for 3 different applications. Brilliant, makes sense. But there are 2 times now that I can recall Elon saying that Tesla will not make LFP in 4680 form. Now, to be honest, I thought 4680 would have been good, at least for the cars. I could understand if there was a different form factor required for energy, as a battery for energy storage would have different objectives when compared to one for electric vehicles. But we all know that Tesla need their own LFP batteries for vehicles too. But why not use 4680? It was optimal, it was ideal for cost and range. Or was it? All these figures were based on the diameter of the battery, the optimal diameter being 46mm. So why a different diameter for LFP? We can't increase the height of the battery, as otherwise it will affect the ride height or ground clearance, unless we start rethinking exactly what Tesla are doing here. Really, every 1% increase in range makes a huge difference at this stage. If they're able to do things different with LFP batteries than they can with nickel. For example, what if the batteries were laid down horizontally? What if the batteries were a form 46 in diameter, but maybe 1000mm in height, a 46 1000 battery? They'd lay down horizontally along the structural battery pack instead of standing up vertically, perhaps due to the fact that LFP is so much more durable and safer that it can be designed around less weight rather than reducing costs, and certain safety factors aren't an issue. To be honest, this is going slightly over my head on battery knowledge, and I'm not saying that I think this will happen, and I'm just trying to think how different Tesla's LFP batteries could be to make you also think. And it doesn't stop there either. What about battery that doesn't need to be compromised? What about if weight didn't matter, volumetric density wasn't a factor, and energy density didn't play into it? Then what kind of battery could you come up with? What could be produced the fastest at the lowest cost? What would this battery be for? Well, energy storage, of course. It doesn't have to fit into the floor of a car. It doesn't have to be moving around its entire working life. It can just sit down on the ground and do its thing, and it can be built up as high as needed, and likely as sparse as necessary, within reason. Although also we're hearing about a patent for the 4680 for energy storage, although it is mainly a tabless energy storage device and methods of manufacturing, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm telling you, when Tesla announced their LFP battery, it's going to be the only battery that looks capable of transitioning us to renewable energy, and therefore I place it as high as some of these other world-changing inventions we've seen in history. This is how I see the importance of this product. The 4680 nickel-based battery will do wonders for Tesla and the stock price, but it's the LFP version that is required to truly transform the world. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.